I remember back in the day when we all lived in the North and the Northeast. I mean, it was like we all knew each other. We went to the same schools and churches, played at the same parks, and at the end of the day, it's the overall sense of family and community. But now things have changed. We no longer live in such close proximity. We've been spread out through gentrification and the overall growth of the city itself. So when I talk about Black Portland, I'm talking about a movement to celebrate each other, a movement to reclaim our identity and make our presence felt in the city of Portland.
Yo, what up, what up? Let me stop that YouTube before the next video come up. If I didn't stop it, you guys would have known that I watch battle rap. Don't tell nobody. I'm a nerd that way. My name is Adrian Wright, man. I'm the admin of the Black Portland Facebook group, and this is Black Portland Live. I think, my man, let me see if I scroll down. Oh, yeah. Oh, there go Anthony. So I'm waiting on my co-host, Mr. Dale Ramsey, to join us whenever he finds the time, and we have an amazing conversation for you folks tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about HB 3112, which is a piece of legislation better known as the Oregon Cannabis Equity Act, and we'll get into the details of that and how people can benefit from that legislation. And we'll also have some conversation about executive level jobs and other type of career opportunities that are available for diverse candidate pool. So we're talking about, clearly for us, it's African Americans. We're looking for Black people to find opportunities in the fastest growing industry in the state. So you know how we do. Before we get started with the interview, we always take care of some housekeeping things for the Black Portland Facebook group. The first thing I want to talk about is, once again, make sure you guys are using the search function. If you're looking for a certain topic, if you have a certain question, go to the top of the Black Portland Facebook group page, search your title in, and it's all of the posts that have that subject will come up. Hold on, man. You know what? This wasn't part of the plan, but since my guy ain't here yet, I'm just going to show you guys. I'll give you an example. All right, so you come here to the Black Portland Facebook group. By the way, for those of you that don't know what the Black Portland Facebook group, let me rewind and give you a quick rundown, the elevator speech or whatnot. Black Portland Facebook group was a group I created 5 years ago as a way to kind of reconnect with my community. I felt that through lack of proximity and just kind of like what the video we just played was expressing, that we had lost some of the connectivity that we had, and that that limited us. That limited our growth. There was a time in our city where the Black folks mainly lived in one area, and we thrived and we supported each other, and we always knew what we were up to, shared churches together, shared schools, and we had long-standing family names and whatnot. So I made the Facebook group as a way to kind of reconnect online with that feeling and the essence of this city. So ultimately, we grew. We have over 9,400 members, all of whom, we're at 9,500 now, all of whom are African American and have either born in Portland, currently live in Portland, or have some other strong connection to the city of Portland, to the best of our vetting ability. Of course, from time to time, trolls make it in, etc. We try to limit that, but we're not perfect. So let's say you're looking for a barber. Come right up here to the search tab, type in barber, hit enter, and all of a sudden, oh wait, hold on, I'm searching people, post. Type in barber, and all of a sudden, all the posts that have the word barber will show up. That way you don't have to keep coming in every day to see people say, hey, where can I find a good barber, right? The other thing that we have available in the group, if I learn how to use this thing, let me just do that right there. You know what? Y'all get to check out my personal page for a second. All right. Some other things is that if you want to go to the announcements, we usually have some of the top news and information in the group in the announcements page. Clearly, you can see tonight's group. we're coming out with an app. We're going to tell you guys a little bit about that later on. So that's going to be pretty dope. We also have like welcome. We welcome all of our new members. So that's what the announcements are about. So you might want to take some time and go check that out. And then topics, that's really where you can kind of dig in on some specific topics. Anytime someone puts a hashtag in the Facebook group, that hashtag becomes a topic. So if you want to find something that's more targeted, more specific, you can come in here in the topics and kind of pick and choose the hashtag that might reference the material that you're looking for. So that's just kind of some little tips, as how to use the group. A lot of times we get people that say, because people like to debate and people like to argue, and that's just kind of a thing. And so oftentimes we'll get people, hold on, I got Ross, I got Anthony, I got Jeannette, okay. Yeah, my man still ain't here. It's all good. So oftentimes, people like to debate and people like to go back and forth over different topics and whatnot. And so oftentimes people get kind of turned off by that. But what I would say is that the Black Portland Facebook group is a great tool for you to use to find out information about Black-owned businesses, services, goods, jobs, employment opportunities, educational opportunities, and kind of tapped into the heartbeat of Black Portland. So come in there, get more specific. That's my 2-year-old banging on my door. He doesn't understand what's going on tonight. Get more specific about what it is that you're looking for. Wow, okay, so I just got my daughter just, walking up in. What's up? That's little Adrian, for those of you that are wondering. That's my baby girl. And so just know that it's a valuable tool. It's a great way for you to kind of tap into culture, especially those of you who have maybe just recently gotten to the city and are kind of feeling alienated and kind of feeling like you haven't really been able to find out, what's really happening in the community. The Black Portland Facebook group is a great way to get that kind of information. We're also, let me see if I can find this here. Yeah, you can follow us on Instagram at We Are Black Portland. That's We Are Black Portland. You don't see it on the screen now, but we also have an email, weareblackportland@gmail.com. The Instagram page is a really great way to have a quick hit of kind of the different events and things that are going on in the community. We do a lot of social justice stuff on there because that's just, passion. I'm just passionate about social justice. So you will see some of that on there, but primarily it kind of serves as a bulletin board for information about what's going on in the Black community. Also, I would also advise you to follow PDX Black Excellence on Instagram. That's PDX Black Excellence. That is the place to go to find out what kind of events are happening in the Black community today. I'm telling you right now, shout out to the PDX Black Excellence crew. Those are my guys. You know what I'm saying? I am the Director of Business Development for PDX Black Excellence. And I'm telling you, we got a lot of great and interesting things coming on. We are going to merge. Black Portland and PDX Black Excellence are merging and becoming one entity. We just feel like we're stronger together that way. And so, usually this is my time to banter with Daryl, but I'm going to just keep it going. So PDX Black Excellence and the Black Portland, we're going to merged together. And what happened was the person who started PDX Black Excellence, Raylan Jones, knew a couple of mutual friends. Him and I knew a couple of mutual friends, and each of our friends kept coming to us and telling us, you should talk to this guy. You should talk to this guy. So one day we ended up in this community meeting with a bunch of different organizations. I think it was Don't Shoot Portland, PDX Black Collective, etc. We were on a Zoom meeting. Me and Raylan happened to show up at the meeting early, so we got into a conversation. We just found out that our missions and our visions are so aligned, and what that is just kind of highlighting and profiling Black excellence in the community of Portland, and kind of bringing that culture to the forefront to be recognized in the city. And once we realized that we had so much in common, there's no ego, there's no agenda here. You know what I mean? We're just trying to do something good for our city. And we realized that off top and said, they have about 6,500 followers. They have a great newsletter. You should go to pdxblackexcellence.com, sign up for their newsletter. You'll get updates about all kinds of businesses and opportunities. And so all of a sudden, me and this guy, we're just like, it just makes sense for us to link up and just join forces. So be on the lookout for that. Be on the lookout for more information about that. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and bring on our guests. Our first guest is State Representative Ricki Ruiz, represents the 50th District. That is Gresham and East Portland. And so if I said anything wrong, and you can find them on Instagram at, what is that, Ricki Ruiz OR, so for Oregon. How you doing today, sir? Thank you so much for showing up and sharing your time with us. How are you doing?
Doing pretty good. Hey, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So, Ricki Ruiz, who are you, man? What's your elevator speech?
Yeah, man. No, absolutely. I'm Ricki Ruiz. I use him, his pronouns. I get the honor of representing House District 50, which covers Gresham, Rockwood, East Portland, Centennial, indigenous lands of Chinook and Cowlitz. And I've been in office for a little over 2 months, 3 months, man. I don't even know. With COVID now, I don't even know what time it is. But you know, I'm 26 years old, was born in Rockwood, raised in Rockwood, and representing Rockwood. So very blessed to be here and be able to talk about HB 3112, the Cannabis Equity Act.
I appreciate it, man. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just pinning and sharing. Those of you who are viewing, please share. Please like, follow, share the Black Portland Live. Man, I'm honored, man. Thank you for coming and showing up. I really appreciate you joining us tonight. Next, I'm going to go ahead and move to Miss Jeannette Horton. How you doing today?
Hi, good. I'm doing well. Glad to be here.
And okay, and you are the executive director NuLeaf Project. And tell us a little bit about yourself and about NuLeaf Project.
Yeah, so NuLeaf Project is an organization that's been around since 2018. And primarily, we fund cannabis businesses. We have been doing that for 2 years and have funded over 23 businesses. And we do that because we believe that the cannabis industry has the ability to build generational wealth for the communities who are most harmed by cannabis. And we know that first and foremost, that's Black communities. So that's our mission. That's why we were founded. And we also do advocacy work like this because HB 3112 is an opportunity for cannabis to build wealth for Black communities. So that fits with our mission.
That's what's up. So check this out. If you can see on the comments, Daryl doesn't have the link. So that's a good reason why he hasn't joined us today. So I'm going to go ahead and get this man the link. He just makes me better, guys. He just makes me a better host. Give me 1 sec. Daryl, there goes the link, man, if you could hear me. Sorry about that, bro. I put it in the mod chat. All right. So next up, we have Jonathan Ross, a.k.a. Ross the Boss. What's going on with you, man?
Hey, how we doing? Doing good. Blessed to be here. Thank you for having me.
And Ross is with, well, he's not Ricki Ruiz, so let's get that right. See, this is why I need Daryl, bro. Ross is the community relations manager for WYLD CBD. And have you gotten your Instagram account yet, Ross?
You know what? It's still a work in progress.
All right.
It's going. Tonight will be it.
I don't think you're ever going to get one, but I just thought I'd mess around with you a little bit about that. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your history, your background, and how you got what you do for WYLD CBD, which is the #1 distributor of CBD gummies?
CBD and THC. We're the biggest. So my name is Jonathan Ross. I'm the community relations manager for WYLD, and I work very closely with a lot of community organizations in Oregon, as well as the 5-6 other states that we're operating in. WYLD is continuously growing, and through that, I focus on social justice, health and wellness, combating the failed war on drugs, and as well as the sustainability efforts of WYLD as a whole.
All right, that's what's up.
And a little bit about myself. I'm originally from Portland, born and raised here, lived here all my life, did some traveling, came back here, and I love my community. I've seen the changes, so Similar to Adrian, we work to give power, give voice to our people.
I appreciate you for joining us, man. And yeah, thank you all for coming. I do have two of our Facebook group members that are joining us today. We have Dean Price. Dean, how you doing today, brother? Why don't you tell us where you're from and what brought you here to this conversation today? You're on mute, brother.
Yep, one of us had to do it, right? But my name is Dean Price. I live in the Brentwood, Darlington area, southeast Portland. I'm originally from Southampton County, Virginia, which is a little rural county that's famous for the home of Nat Turner and the home of what's his name? I can't remember his name at the moment, but that's basically what's famous for. I'm here because I'm interested in investing in cannabis businesses.
It's probably because you can't hear me because I just went on mute too. How you doing today, Anthony?
Good. I was like, what happened to sound? Like, what happened?
That's how's it going today?
Good. I'm doing blessed, doing good. I'm glad to be here.
And where are you from and what brought you to the conversation?
So I moved here from the Bay Area about almost 17 years ago. Looking for different opportunities. Software industry kind of died. I sold a security business and moved here. Came kind of looking here. I've had a couple of friends approach me about potentially getting into the cannabis industry, and I was interested in seeing what this bill is about and exploring the different opportunities besides just owning a retail store. I mean, there's testing, there's growth, there's security possibilities. I was thinking about possible, career opportunities. So I'm trying to look at things from a larger view instead of just the retail space. And see what other ways and avenues we can not only, create businesses, but create jobs and potentially allow the investment to flow.
That's amazing. You came to the right place. Man, check this out. I just put some feelers out and asked people to reach out to me if they wanted to be a part of the conversation. And you guys are perfect for this conversation. I mean, so yeah, the luck of the draw there. So let's get down to it. First of all, I got Daryl, my man. I left you hanging. What's up with you, brother? How you doing?
It's okay. I'm actually out celebrating tonight, so I'm glad that I could actually join you. I'm glad that all the panelists are here. We have a really great group of panelists, and I see that we have some Facebook group members. So it's always good to see you, brother. I appreciate you including me in this conversation. I look forward to hearing from these esteemed panelists.
What are you celebrating?
My birthday.
It's your birthday today, man?
Actually, tomorrow. It's tomorrow. But we're celebrating today.
You do not need to be on this one. This is not
I'm wilding out on I can't be wilding out on a Monday, so we're going to do it on Sunday.
Well, any moment, if you need to drop off, brother, feel free to believe me.
Okay, I appreciate it.
No offense to that. I usually celebrate my birthday for the entire week. My family hates me. I'm like, it's my birthday week, and I just do different things each day. Last year was my birthday giving, and it was so condescending the way I did it. I didn't mean for it to be, but it was a birthday of giving, and so throughout the week, I gave to others instead of getting. Anyway, don't get me started. So let's get down to business. I want to start with Representative Ruiz because you're a sponsor of this bill and of this legislation. And so I kind of just want to give you kind of some space to talk about how you got involved with the legislation and what exactly, maybe a couple of bullet points that that can kind of summarize what the Oregon Cannabis Equity Act is all about.
Yeah, for sure. First of all, big shout outs to Anthony wearing that Seahawks hat. I know I'm in the right place. So man, what can I start? I think a big part of me wanting to be in the legislature is just the lack of representation we see in the state level. And like you see how many representatives, how many senators we have statewide, and you break it down by race, and you see that us brown folk, us black folk are not being represented out in the Capitol. And it's a problem. I think it's a systemic issue, and it's also a lack of opportunity for folks like us to be in those positions. And I didn't know how to run a campaign. I mean, I've been in. I also hold a position in the school board out here in East County, but I learned how to run a campaign, and I got involved right away. I learned how to fundraise. I learned how to knock on doors. I learned how to ask for people's support. And within a couple months, man, I saw myself running for office, for state office, and it's been a blessing so far. I think I pinch myself every day. I'm in the Capitol, really figuring out, like, man, I'm really here now. I'm taking this one session at a time and trying to figure out what legislation can we support, what legislation can we pass that we're here that will best serve those who have been underserved and marginalized for decades, not only here in Portland but statewide, and how we can support the greater Oregonians. And House Bill 3112 was one of them that there was no hesitation. This work, I mean, shout out to Jeannette. Jeanette's here. I will let Jeannette speak more on the bill, but this bill is truly community driven, truly community oriented and organized. This was not just one person's idea. This was a community's idea. I want to give a quick shout out to former Rep. Akasha Lawrence Spence, soon to be Senator Akasha Lawrence Spence, who spearheaded this bill, and now myself and the other legislators are carrying it this session to make sure it passes, because this is such a fundamental bill that it's gonna be a good start to repair the damages that us brown and black folk have gone through around police arrests and being charged and being tried for things like possession of cannabis. But this bill goes further than that. I mean, this goes into the expungement process. This goes into community wealth, community and generational wealth. How do you build your own business? There's just so many good things about this bill that I'm so stoked about. And man, if I have the opportunity to open up my own cannabis shop, I will, because this bill is going to allow me to have those resources. And we're not taught, we were talking about this earlier before we went on the show. We don't get taught about this in school, right? We don't get taught about this even in college. Like, we have to learn this from somebody. We have to learn this from the streets. And sometimes sometimes it's too late. And I think right now, more than anything, my job and my duty is to make sure that we do everything that we can to support our communities, to give them a voice and give them the resources that they desperately need in order for us to be almost in an equal playing field as our white men and women who have been living here for generations. But Jeannette, I want to give you the mic, and Amy, if you want to share more about House Bill 3112. I know you've been a champion on this, and my respects to you and all the work that you've been doing for this.
Yeah, and Jeannette, you're the first person who brought the bill to my attention. Ross and I connected through the Facebook group. He told me about the great thing that the NuLeaf project we're doing, and now me, Jeannette, and Ross have this amazing, partnership we're trying to form here so that we can get the word out to the people who need to hear about this bill. So yeah, just build on what the representative was saying here about the Oregon Cannabis Equity Act.
Yeah, so I'll actually start by letting you all know that we are changing the name of the bill. We're rebranding it. And
okay.
It's I call it a rebranding because the intent of the bill has always been the same from this community work group, that we recognize the harm that cannabis criminalization has done to our community, and the way that cannabis possession was really a trigger for law enforcement intervention that then people can't get unwound from. And that we know, because data tells us, that it's not just the person who's arrested and incarcerated, but all the members of their family, their siblings, their parents, their children, if they're adults, everyone's impacted economically, emotionally as well. But the data tracks that economic impact, and the impact is a contributing factor to the wealth decline that the Black community is on, that no other racial or ethnic group is on. And it's a tough place to start, but the work group started at a tough spot. We started last summer after Breonna Taylor's death and George Floyd's death, and we were passionate about doing something for reparative justice. And we know that cannabis is that nexus, that it was that trigger of arrest and incarceration for so many people in our community. So many of us. I mean, we don't need to tell each other the stories, but other cultures don't understand it like we do. So it's that nexus, and we knew that we could take growing cannabis taxes. So the cannabis industry in Oregon is growing by leaps and bounds. It's growing across the world, phenomenal pace, one of the fastest growing industries. In Oregon, it grew by 40% last year, and it keeps outpacing economic projections. They keep putting these tax projections together for how much tax money cannabis is going to bring in, and they keep revising them because they can't keep up. So it's a good industry to open a business in, but it's also a really important economic moment for us as citizens to say, where should those tax dollars go? And they should go to investing in the community from whom cannabis criminalization extracted from the community, and that's the Black community first and foremost. But when you sit with that problem, the data tells you that it's also the Indigenous and Latinx community in Oregon. Disparate impact of arrest and policing, and that disparate economic impact on the other side. Or as an outcome, better said. So the bill says for Black, Indigenous, and Latinx communities, and that's the setup, but that we will take cannabis taxes and we will set those aside to be invested into rebuilding that wealth. So the bill asks for 25% of cannabis taxes ongoing, which represents $50 million a year conservatively and growing, would go into these programs for us, land ownership and home ownership. So there are home ownership programs, they're not well funded. This would be funding for those kinds of down payment assistance type programs. It would go into entrepreneurship and business funding, not just for cannabis businesses, but for all businesses, because we know that Black businesses are the most underfunded businesses. And that one, when funded, they grow as well as their peers. And actually, diverse businesses perform better than their peers. And they're more likely to hire diverse employees. So funding Black businesses is the right thing to do. The fact that it hasn't happened business-wise, the fact that it hasn't happened is systematic racism, but we can set this money aside and make it happen. So that's what the bill does. It lays out a few other things: job training and placement, high-quality childcare, because for women that gets in the way of building a career if you're a single mom. Yeah. So it sets aside money for those things, and it takes that money from the cannabis taxes, and it also takes money from the criminal fines account, 10%. And the criminal fines account is where you pay a speeding ticket or a cannabis arrest, fines and fees. So our community is disproportionately overpaid historically and continues into that account. Right. It makes sense for a portion of that account to then create, to do the work that undoes the harm of the system. Yeah, yeah. So that's one piece of the bill. As Rep. Ruiz said, it's big. There are two other pieces. If we've got time.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's go.
Okay. So the other pieces are expungement. We have cannabis possession crimes that are no longer illegal, that 28,000 records still exist with these crimes. We need to do what other states and cities have done, which is automatic expungement. There's no such thing. So what this bill does is sets aside funds to actually fund the work of automatic expungement, but it's automatic for the person who has this crime. They don't have to contact a lawyer anymore. Don't have to fill any complicated paperwork. It's just taken, it's just done, which is the right thing to do. So the bill covers that and says that we need to do that. And then the last thing that it does is creates these cannabis equity licenses. So I know the other part of this topic is talking about how do you get into the industry. And so we're underrepresented, Black, Indigenous, and Latinx folks as owners in the industry. And what we know is that there are hurdles, but especially around capital. We're undercapitalized, and so we don't have the funds to start what is a very expensive business to start. So what this bill does is it says for all the cannabis licenses that we have, it creates an equity license for Black, Indigenous, and Latinx owned businesses. The business has to be 51% owned by Black, Indigenous, or Latinx people, or someone who has been arrested for cannabis. And if the business is owned 51% by either of those groups, then you get reduced fees for your license. You get faster license processing. And this is important because that can actually tank your business, how long it takes to get a license. It's an expensive business to start. So we in short, reduced the hurdles and created more support for these equity licensees. We've also created three new licenses in this bill. One of which is shared processing, shared kitchen, so that people can share the cost of starting a business. We've also created an expanded delivery license, so making the delivery license a bit more kind of functional and sensible. And then we have added an on-premise license, and most people know this better as social consumption. So we don't have that allowed in Oregon, and what that means is if you rent a space, so I rent my home, or if you are in public housing, or if you're a vet in VA housing, you aren't allowed to consume. There's no legal place for you to consume. There's no legal place for me to consume cannabis. And they don't have the data on who gets stopped and arrested for smoking in public. They don't track it. Surprise. We've asked for it because I'm sure you would see it's our community. So it's important for us that we create these legal spaces for people to consume so that it's actually legal for everybody. That is the bill, what this work does.
Man, who can't support this? Like, who, do you guys have opponents of this bill? Like, who is not supporting this right now? Like, I can't imagine this is going to have a hard time passing. Do you guys run into obstacles? Here's what we were talking about before, and I know we've had this conversation before on multiple occasions. I was just talking to Dean about this when we first pulled up into the broadcast studio, which is that there's a taboo in the African American community when it comes to marijuana. One reason is because our attachment to religion, right? Regardless of what religion that is, Black folks are religious. You know what I mean? And I know for me, I'll speak to my experience growing up. Smoking weed is a sin. You know what I'm saying? It's a no-no. You can't do it. You see what I'm saying? In addition to that, because of some of the things that you've mentioned and the way that we've been treated by the criminal justice system when it comes to cannabis, it's like I was saying before, we're waiting for the trap. What's the catch? You know what I'm saying? It's a setup, right? They said we could do it, but just like you said, if I'm renting a house, if my landlord don't like me, he can pull that out on me. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's why, we see a lack of interest. I think it's also what the representative spoke to earlier, which is a lack of education, not knowing where the resources are, not knowing where those access points are, not being in that loop. So there's that piece too. So there's so many obstacles to the BIPOC community as a whole, African Americans more specific in this conversation, that this bill is addressing in amazing ways. I can't imagine there are people who are trying to shut it down. Yeah, no.
Yeah, I mean, from the legislative point, I think there's always going to be those who are going to oppose anything that we introduce, right? And I think the big message here is this is our time, and this is what this bill is going to do. Either you're with it or you're not, and if you're not, it's all public record. You're going to vote in front of the House. We're going to see who voted against this. But the conversations I've had with the Democratic caucus have been very positive. I think there's worries, there's technical worries here and there that we're trying to fix, but overall, I think the end goal of this passing is fully supported by the Democratic caucus. And one thing I want to share really quick too, because you just mentioned about this taboo that exists within their Black brothers and sisters and families. It's also here the same thing with the Latinx folks. I think we not only is it a sin, but we get disowned by our family because they catch us with weed or we're smoking. And one thing that I just shared a couple of days ago was that even if for our undocumented members, Oregonians who are here, we have to remind folks this is still a federal crime, right? Like it's still possession of cannabis is still federally illegal, and we're working on that aspect too. But those who are trying to become a U.S. citizen or a U.S. resident, if you are caught with cannabis, or if you are even caught working in the cannabis industry, and you're trying to adjust to become a U.S. citizen, that could affect you, and you will not. And there's a chance that you cannot become a U.S. citizen because of that. So that education component, I just learned about this literally 2 weeks ago.
Wow.
And I didn't know about this. So there's just so much that this bill can address, and there's just so much that we can go onto the federal level and address. And this is why I signed up to support this bill right away. And I'm making sure that my team and my other colleagues are staying on top of making sure that we're set to go from the House side and the Senate side. And we hope that, by the end of this session, this bill will indeed pass, and we'll see it signed by the governor no later than July.
Man, let's get a few more people involved in the conversation. So let's open up the floor a little bit. As you guys know, Black Portland Live is kind of more of a casual conversation than it is. It's not a news program or anything like that. It's just people getting together and talking about the subject. So from what you guys heard so far, I know, Jonathan, I know you know a lot about this, and we'll probably have more to add when we start talking about careers. But do you have anything you wanted to add, comment, questions?
Yeah, I didn't want to get too ahead of the conversation, but just to note, as we're talking about barriers and how we see it on so many different fronts, and that lack of education, I think that one thing to note that I've seen is that lack of education also is a barrier for just working in cannabis as a whole. And that's problematic. I feel like I'm new to cannabis. I started working for WYLD, about 4 or 5 months ago, maybe at this point. And before then, I had a military background. I come from a fairly religious family, and I was to know what Adrian said. I was constantly pushed away from cannabis. And what's interesting is it wasn't until I started working at a company, you kind of remove those stigmas and kind of those stereotypes. Maybe that we may be working in like a basement. It's, these are very professional spaces with a lot of opportunity to grow. And to note, I think as a whole, the cannabis industry, at least in Oregon, is very adamant on diversifying their staff. At least I can speak for WYLD and say that we're diligent in the work and identifying, the little things as if like the job applications, right? As when we look at these words and some of them are overbearing and some of them are a bit intimidating, and it can be discouraging. And that's why we work with NuLeaf to address that, and Black Portland as well. I think there's so many different aspects, and I think that education barrier is absolutely just the culprit that needs to be addressed.
Dean and Anthony, let's start with Dean, and then let's go to Anthony, man. What do you guys think about what you've heard? Did you have any questions with respect to the bill? We're going to talk about some career stuff here in a moment, but what do you think? What are your thoughts so far on what you've heard?
The main thing I like what I've heard. What my real big questions are more about the investing side, like how much does each thing cost? Like how much is the startup of a retail? How much is the startup of a farm? How much is the startup of like a delivery? Is there a delivery like from the farm to the store, or is that part of the retail or farm business? Like the ins and outs of is what I'm really interested in. So once we get there, that's when I probably jump in a little bit more.
Sounds good. What about you, Annie?
I would think, just based on the bill thing, a couple questions came into my mind, and I guess maybe Jeannette and our Ricki can answer these questions. I noticed like once these bills get established and they get set in motion, so let's say June or July comes through, I think that's when the work comes, and Jonathan kind of hit on it as far as education about the process, how's the money getting allocated, what are the steps as far as controlling where the money is actually going. So you have these bills in general that get kind of set up. The fluctuation of the taxes of how much money is coming in and coming out seems to be changing. Is there a set amount of money that the bill says we want $150 million? We want 10% of the taxes. We want, X amount. And once that dollar amount is set up, how's it allocated to the different categories? And I guess so. In short, what type of administration and managing process is going to happen after the bill is actually passed?
Great question.
It is a great question, Anthony. It's the only thing I didn't speak to when talking about the parts of the bill, so I appreciate you. It's a good question, because what happens when these funds are allocated to our communities, and we've got proof of this in Oregon, is that it doesn't reach our communities if we don't have the right mechanisms in place. And so what the bill also does is creates this equity investment office and board. And the office is a couple of people and the board is community members. And between the two of them, they're required to produce data to the organizations, with the organizations that receive those monies, showing where the money went, who did it benefit, what outcomes is it improving, and that data that money is tracked all the way to the hands that they ultimately reach in the community, to be sure they're reaching the Black, Indigenous, and Latinx people we prioritize for the ways in which we set out. And it's 25% to answer your question. So we did set a percentage, and that could always go down, but at this point, the cannabis industry just continues to grow and continues to represent a real opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. That was a great piece that I kind of wanted to know. And I guess, once it gets set up in the board, will be able to, because my concern, like I said, is that regardless, Black and brown community education, whether it's finance, business, opportunity to learn how to do jobs, it's a piece that's missing. I think that is completely lacking. So, I think that should be the first, jump off point. How do you reach people? Is it a software? Is it a social media process? Is it a door-to-door, process? The percentages of trying to get people to grow in jobs and allocations. So, and that was it. And just kind of looking over my.
I was going to say, Anthony, that's what we're trying to do here. That's what we're doing with this Black Portland Live. That's what we're doing when we're partnering with NuLeaf, the NuLeaf project, and others involved. Is we're trying to do our part too in amplifying the message, so that when they, the information and the curriculum that they have, all of the information about how you gain access to the benefits of this, we want to amplify that message to that audience as well. But go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, brother.
No, it's fine. It's that, and just thinking, just looking at the different kind, I kind of looked at the bill quickly, just kind of seeing what was going on. And, it seems like for sure, like the expunge program, like to be able to get rid of, people's criminal history, 28,000 people. I mean, that's a huge undertaking in itself, as far as, is there money allocated for like software programs to help push this through? I mean, I think the initial program analysts or the management part of it is going to be crucial as far as foundation is concerned, for it to be successful. And I think my last question is, I know typically with grants and these type of money, you normally track where the money's going, but is there like plans put in press? So let's say we have deans able to, get funded for the $250,000 it takes to, to start a process and growing. Is that a one-time investment? Is there a way to see and track, after he does that, the growth of that process, so it can be duplicated, throughout the whole, intent of the bill? I think those certain goals and milestones and metrics are something that's going to be important.
Agree. Absolutely.
Yeah, those are great things that need to be pointed out, and I'm sure that you guys are working on that. Or so I guess what you're speaking to is kind of the delivery mechanism, right? Once the legislation is passed, what's the plan and the infrastructure set in place for the delivery method? Is that formed now, or do we have to wait until the legislation is passed, then form that infrastructure? And if that's the case, is that going to extend the amount of time that it's going to take for these funds to actually reach the community?
Yeah. So, to Anthony, the largest part of the bill is the first, 20 pages, it feels like, that detail this equity office and then the equity board, and then all the data and so metrics and as you pointed out, that they are gathering from various agencies. So that's laid out in the bill now. And then, Adrian, to answer your question, so how it's delivered is of utmost importance. So it seems dry and I didn't cover it, but the majority of the bill is how is it actually delivered? How is the mechanism that gets the money to the community? Because for long-term sustainability, that's what it's very important. So I usually don't talk about it, but thank you for your questions. And that is the majority of the bill. And then Adrian, it has to happen after it passes in terms of setting all this up, setting up the equity licenses, setting up the board in the office. But they have deadlines, doing the expungement work. But everybody's got a deadline, because one thing that happens is states drag their feet. I saw someone dropped in the chat. Illinois has a program that's got a lot of similarities. Doing this work with cannabis equity has become a standard. So we are late to the game in Oregon, but had used a lot of best practices and learnings from other states to get it right. And here's one from Illinois that didn't put timelines on things, and it just drug out and drug out. So we learned from that and put timelines in our bill about when these licensing programs have to begin, when the expungement work has to start and be completed, etc.
Nice. It's great to know that we got people like you on the job working on, you know what I mean? Intelligent people working on all the angles to make sure that we don't miss anything. So often, like Anthony was alluding to, legislation like this gets passed and everybody wonders what happens. And typically what happens is people who have more privileged positions find ways to get that money to funnel their way instead of trickling down to the people who really can make use of it and really help rebuild this community and into what Jeannette was saying, this generational wealth. So we're going to take a quick moment here to kind of go over a few culture pieces. I just want to let those of you know, like I know everybody has their own time, so you know what I mean. We're going to continue this out, but if you're running out of whatever, feel free to kind of do your thing. We're going to segue into the more career path. I want to thank you guys for all that valuable information about the bill, and we're looking forward to just continue to amplify all the bullet points and all of the features and aspects and things that our community can benefit from if and when the bill passes. Before we segue into our conversation about job opportunities and whatnot, I want to kind of do something different this time and kind of highlight some things that are going on in the community so that people can know what's up as far as, in the Black Portland community. The first thing, I kind of want to toot my own horn a little bit here. My passion project, y'all don't need to know my personal business. There we go. My passion project for the past couple of years has definitely been the XB app. Me and my business partners, who happen to be, my brother and one of my best friends, are actually, can you guys see that? There it is. We're actually producing an app to serve as a tool in the Black community. So XB is based on 3 pillars. That's connected through culture and community. That's the 3 C's: connection, culture, and community. The culture section is going to feature a monthly blog where we feature and highlight impactful Black Portlanders. We talk about Black businesses, people in the fashion industry, etc. The connection piece is going to be an events calendar that allows people to find out, about all of the events that are going on in the Black community and for the Black community and beyond. And then the community piece is going to be a directory of Black-owned businesses in the area. And so you can easily find access to Black-owned business goods and services. Those of you who own businesses, if you're an entrepreneur or if you have a side hustle or you're an independent contractor, or you're just trying to support your family, you want to go ahead and send an email to weareblackportland@gmail.com to find out more information about the upcoming XP app. We do have a partnership with Oregon Live. And so you'll start to see a lot of promotional materials coming through them. So it's an amazing tool. It's going to be great for the community. It's going to be a dope way for us to just kind of tap in, with one another and find out, especially, I got love for my transplants, and I know y'all hate the word, some of y'all, just especially those of you who come to the city and you kind of feel like you haven't really been able to touch, the Black culture here. This is going to be a valuable tool. We kind of made this based on what our members in the Black Portland Facebook group were telling us. They were telling us they want to know where, who can do their hair. They want to know where they can find a good therapist. Oftentimes people who want to talk to a therapist want to talk to a therapist that looks like them. So we expect for this to be a great piece of the Black Portland community. I also just want to send another shout out to PDX Black Excellence, man. If you guys have not gone to pdxblackexcellence.com, I'm telling you, that group is doing amazing things in the community. And so you just want to touch bases with us. Anything that you're doing, you can go ahead and email me anything that you have going on that you want to amplify to a larger Black community in the city of Portland. If you're not reaching out to PDX Black Excellence in Black Portland, bro, I don't know what you're doing, right? I also want to send a shout out to the Numbers FM. They're doing so much right now, allowing content creators to come into their airways. So if you are a content creator, you want to get a hold of the Numbers FM. These are not paid advertisements or anything like that, man. I'm just trying to share the love and what we have going on in the community. So with that being said, man, people want to share on Black Portland Live. We do air every last Sunday of the month from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. Please send me an email, send me your flyer, send me your whatever you have going on so that we can get your message out to a wider audience. All right, so really that was just a shameless plug. I had no more. I was asking people, nobody wanted to send me nothing, so I just toot my own horn, you know what I'm saying? Any of you guys, if you got something going on, feel free. So let's get into it, man. We're already getting questions from our audience. Jeannette Malone wants to know, where would you start to get funding to start a small business in the cannabis industry? What permits and licenses are needed to make and package your own edible brand? Who is this right here? This is Ridge Jackson. I got my permits paid for because of a group Raina referred me to. I don't know who Raina is, but that's good. Congratulations on getting that. So there's so much interest in this industry because everyone knows it's growing fast. There's money to be made, but no one really has the access. So I guess this is where we want to talk to Dean and Anthony and speak to kind of some of the questions that they posed earlier. I'm going to set it off with a question of my own. So the biggest question I get, how much money does it cost to start your own cannabis industry? We talked about it a little bit on the Clubhouse interview, but man, somebody tell me, somebody put that number out there. I know it depends, but let's say, ballpark.
It really depends, but let's say you're going to start a cannabis business where you need a license, which is different from a permit. So there's a handler's permit if you want to work in a cannabis license facility, and then there's a cannabis license. We're talking about the license to open a plant touching business. That's what they call them. You're going to grow, you're going to deliver, it's going to be retail, it's going to be processing, you're going to be making edibles. So it depends, but if you really want a round number, because and it's true, you got to get your head wrapped around something, 100,000. You could spend triple that. You could spend 5 times to 10 times that, ultimately opening a big state-of-the-art cultivation facility, opening a processing facility. Processing facilities are expensive. Opening a testing facility, those are on the high end. Retail's not cheap, but it's middle to lower. And if you open a small grow and you start small, you could do it for less than 100,000 for sure. But you're 50,000 without question.
And then for Ross, let's say I don't have a bunch of money. I'm not trying to start my own business, but I'm looking to get in with a company like WYLD. You know what I mean? Like one of these major companies, and I'm a career person and I'm trying to get a job. What do I need to do?
So what I'm gonna say, as far as like the education experience and like the personal experiences that is needed, I would say it is pretty generalized. But one thing that I'll note is that the cannabis industry as a whole is very new, and for WYLD, there isn't a bachelor's, master's requirement. Experience is always preferred, but I think what's interesting about the cannabis industry as a whole is that its processes and the way you navigate this space is entirely different from our more generalized industries. And with that, there's a lot of opportunity for growth. For example, and I'll use myself as an example. Community relations was a part of it, but it was more for me. I worked with the Department of State, and it was very different from cannabis. So when I got into this space, there were similarities, but there's always going to be a learning piece or a learning curve getting into this, and there's opportunity for growth in that. It really just depends. Right now, WYLD, we're looking for a more diverse executive staff. We're very diverse within the entry level, especially like in some of our states like California, and then here we're fairly diverse. But what's interesting about it is that we've realized our growth and our a different lens in growing as a company and just taking more of that market share. Part of that is there's an important piece of having a diverse team for that. And I think that's a realization that's coming around for all cannabis industries or all cannabis businesses, is that diversity really does bring a different lens that leads to success. But to answer your question, I can't speak for most companies, but I think the biggest piece right now is the education piece. For cannabis, it's different. I mean, in reality, you're selling drugs. Like if the federal government looks at you, it's like we're selling CBD water, which is a drug water or whatever the case may be. But what's interesting about that is that there's health benefits. There's a lot of opportunities to bring expertise into this industry, and Black and brown communities. This was our game. This was our stuff. We know plants. We know cultivation. We knew about this plant before it was before it was a thing. So I think for the most part, experience is one thing that I think communities of color shouldn't doubt themselves about, especially Black people. I think that there is a lot of opportunity that you bring just naturally. And just take that step forward and apply and see what happens.
That's what's up. That's what's up. So Anthony and Dean, bro, I'm gonna just tell you straight up, we're not gonna be able to build your business here in this conversation. You feel what I'm saying? But I definitely want to say, to your more intense and specific questions, you definitely want to reach out to Jeannette outside of this conversation, because that's your resources, NuLeaf Project. That being said, though, I do want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of, spitfire a few questions her way, and, maybe me and Ross can comment on it as well. But I do want to give you guys some space and some time to kind of get some questions answered that you join the conversation for. So let's start with Dean. Go ahead, brother.
I have two questions. The one question is for Jonathan, which is, how is it actually working in the cannabis business? Because I know, like, when I first got out the Marine Corps, I started my own.
There you go.
Yeah, I started my own tax preparation business, and when I would go like to different conferences and stuff, I would notice, yes, I was the darker person at the conference type thing, because tax preparation isn't that big of a business in our world. So I was just wondering, how is that in your business? And then I wanted to ask Jeannette about what are the non-businesses, what's the non-businesses that's necessary for it to work, like not the retail or the farming, the things that you need a license or permit for. What's the back end? Like, for example, I know like point of sale systems, anything else, the other things, because I always, like, when I think of investing, I want to invest in the nuts and bolts and not the actual business, if that makes sense.
So I'll go first. Just kind of how is it at WYLD, or what is WYLD? It's very different. I think that one thing that I didn't realize when I first started working in this space is that cannabis, as a cannabis business tries to operate, they're recognized federally as still legal. So I think there's a lot of barriers and things that the cannabis industry does that a lot of other businesses don't. And because of that, there's a very high level of professionalism within the industry. I guess, for a daily, a daily dose of my life, it's generally how most Black folk feel when they work at a majority white company. You do it. what's interesting about WYLD though is I personally work directly with the CEO, Aaron Morris, and I will say that Aaron is one of these people who is very young and knew cannabis and knew the process, and because of that, there's a unique opportunity that presented with WYLD, because we are growing. To Jeanette's point, cannabis has a lot of money in it, and there's a lot of success in it, and with that, there's new ways of thinking. I believe Aaron Morris, actually, he was the one who said there is no set way to grow your business. Aaron started, I believe, granted, he's a white boy, but he started in a farm with like a stove burner. And I mean, he wasn't too far off from how some of my family members might have done it. But what's interesting is that there was no rules. He kept his product up, and he kept grinding, and that's one of the biggest pieces with a company like that. And I think a lot of people in the cannabis industry, as you kind of work in this management space, are naturally just wanting to do good, naturally wanting to perform, and naturally just wanting to grow. And there's a lot of space for different way of thinking because it's cannabis. You got to think outside the box. I think that's where Black and brown people will thrive. But to answer your question, for me, it's my job is a blessing. I look for great organizations like NuLeaf with Jeannette and Black Excellence and Mudbone Grown, and we look to support. And I've been in social justice is also my thing. I'm a big history buff on like understanding what's happened to our community, and because of that, I now have an opportunity to make real growth and real impact, and it's only due to the new way of thinking in cannabis. So I think it'd be real refreshing once you get in there. I've seen this through multiple leaders within the cannabis industry and businesses. Does that answer your question? I don't know if does that get to the point?
That was that's the great answer. Thank you.
Awesome.
All right, I'll jump in. That was a great answer, Ross. Thank you. And then I'll speak to the investing side. So, Dean, I love that you asked about investing. We definitely there are lots of other ways to get into the cannabis industry, and being an investor is one of them. And we are not, Black folks are not investing in this industry practically at all. So that's, we have this much ownership, and I have seen little to no investing except by celebrities. And then sadly, they seem to be investing in white-owned brands by and large. So I would love to see more of us investing in us. And there's definitely an opportunity. There's a financial opportunity with the investing that's real. And so I'll throw that's what I'll say about that. And then if you want to talk more about it offline, Adrian said we are available for people to contact us. There's some organizations I could put you in touch with, Dean, who are thinking about forming cannabis investment groups for Black folks. And so those are the kind of people we'd want to network you with. Because I'd love to see it happen. I'd absolutely would. And then you asked about non-plant touching businesses. And then you said you wanted to invest in those nuts and bolts businesses. So we call those ancillary businesses in cannabis. You'll see that term. The non-plant touching ones are called ancillary. And they are a great opportunity. They are a great opportunity to invest in because they are, for a number of reasons. They seem to do a better job growing consistently, just consistent upward growth, and get to profitability faster because of their scale. So those businesses can move from state to state a lot faster and easier than a plant touching business. They're not subject to some of the same heavy regulatory restrictions. So they're a good bet for that reason. They seem to have faster, more upward growth consistently, and they're getting to exits faster. So I used to lead marketing and public relations for a company that went public while I was there. And when I started, we were in a handful of states and 2 countries, and it was 30 employees. And that's all. I mean, when Ross wonderfully laid out kind of what it looks like to work in a cannabis company, very well. But the opportunity is really there. If you don't want to own a business, owning a business is hard won. And Anthony talked about how he's owned a business. It's hard to own a business in any industry. Cannabis is triple, double hard because, as Ross said, the feds and everybody else consider what you're doing illegal drug selling. And so banking is a nightmare, and finding a place to rent you is a nightmare, and just everything is so much more work. So you've just got to really be like, oh, I really want to own a business. I love owning a business. You've got to have that passion. If you don't, it's a wonderful thing to go be a professional in cannabis too. There's a good opportunity for you there as well. Especially if you decide, get your place where you can get some ownership in that business.
Yeah, and it may be kind of just a great place to start. You may not know. You may not know a whole lot about cannabis and starting a business, but even working in cannabis and just taking a job, cannabis doesn't pay back. I mean, especially finding the right companies. There's a lot of skills that I think people have, and I think that that could be a great starting point for some of those who may want to start a cannabis business, is not really sure about the ins and outs. You can learn a magnitude, just a massive amount of knowledge just working in the industry, and then there's growth afterwards. And I just kind of want to preface this kind of just for like all our listeners in the group that this is a tricky space. One thing I remember hearing is Black folks used to live in a system that was not built for us, and it's dysfunctional, right? And now we make a dysfunctional system work for us. This is the same thing in the cannabis industry. It may be dysfunctional, but in theory, this is the things that we thrive at, right? These are the things that we do so good at and outperform if given the opportunity and drive. It's not like we haven't done it before. And as WYLD, we work in other states. I'm working in California right now, and we work with some Black organizations centered around cannabis there. And once you're in the industry, there is community. And Black cannabis-owned Black cannabis businesses, I mean, they work together. They support each other where they can. And another thing that I would note is don't be afraid to partner. I think one of the biggest things that I heard is just, you can partner with a group of Black people, the ones you trust, and the ones that may be good business partners, and there's your growth right there. There's the more opportunity, because like Jeannette said, it's complicated. It's very complex, and having some bodies to kind of work through that process will definitely make things flow a little bit better.
That's what's up, and I hope you was taking notes, brother. Anthony, bro, go ahead, brother. Shoot your shot, man.
A couple questions, I guess. Start with Jonathan. You talked about opportunity in the cannabis industry for people of color. I mean, are there websites, and what's the best way to look for a job in that industry? I mean, is it like through Indeed? Do you guys have your own separate space to search for jobs? How are they going about reaching out and finding people in the cannabis industry?
That's a great question, Anthony. And this is something that I've been passionate about working with within WYLD. For one thing that I would start with is the first question that I always ask myself is, what I use LinkedIn, right? LinkedIn is a fairly professional. It's great for networking. And when we're posting jobs, at least for WYLD, when we're posting jobs, the biggest question is, how do we find where to post jobs that target these cultural specific groups? Do we post jobs on NAACP? Do we just post jobs at Urban Legal Portland when they do their job fairs? And then on top of that, the other part of it is the content in which we're posting these jobs too intimidating? Like, is it too complex? I remember reading my job when I looked at WYLD, and I have a bachelor's degree. I've been to like 24 countries. I have quite a bit of experience, and I still looked at it and I was like, I don't know if I might get it, I might not. And I believe everybody has that experience, especially knowing when you look up a company and there's nothing but white people on our website. Will I fit that bill? So these jobs are found in Indeed, on LinkedIn, but we're also working to put them in, the NAACP job board. Jeannette, I don't know if I can speak to you, but Jeannette will be having a job post. She'll be having a job board for like NuLeaf, so that'll be a great resource. I think the industry is trying, but at least I'll say for Portland, Black people are kind of elusive here, right? We're all over the place, and I work diligently to try to find the best places to post them. I mean, I remember we even tried on Black Portland, and Adrian came back with us with some, really good feedback. So I'd say these jobs we're trying to post them everywhere. A strong place to be is just a wildcanna.com, if you know cannabis industries, they have job boards. But LinkedIn's also strong, Indeed's also strong. You could find any of our jobs there as well. Does that answer your question?
Oh, it does.
Kind of putting effort to it, and then I mean, it's a fluid motion. It's a constant learning experience, trying to find the best places. Right? But nonetheless, pretty much almost anywhere now. We're posting them wherever we can.
Right. I think my question for thank you so much. That was great. I loved your talking about your love for history too. I had a history teacher that once said, history is not about learning what happened in the past, but how it affects us today. And I think with this industry, that's a huge thing as far, things that have happened, 20, 30, 40 years ago. How does it affect me as a person of color today when I'm trying to start a business, when I'm trying to do this, when I'm interfacing with other people? What's the precedent? For my interactions with people. So I love that you said history. So another thing. So Jeannette, my question for
you muted yourself.
You dropped out. You muted, brother.
I'm sorry. Okay, I'm back. Okay. I'm sorry. So my question for Jeannette, and I'll probably reach you offline. So because I can tell you're a cornucopia of information. We just started talking about things. I was like, okay, it's just too much. I can't get everything, from here without a doubt, so I'm reset. But I think Dean hit on something that I'm interested in as well, is the non-plant touching part of the businesses. To be able to go through that. And it seems like, and I guess the question is, do you have those, do you guys have a list of those type of businesses, or have you witnessed like, okay, these type of businesses are growing? People talk about, growing rooms are growing, dispensaries are growing, but, how about like the software pieces, the banking pieces, the security pieces? Those are type of pieces that I think for people of color, not only can we get our feet in and grow, but it's something we can duplicate the process. So, if we partner with other people, we get to go in Oregon you can go to Maryland, you can go to Chicago, you can go to different places and say, okay, let's start crossing different, state lines with those type of businesses. So. I can't hear you. Jeannette, I think you're muted.
Yes, I am. I was just emphatically agreeing with you. And then wondering if I missed your question. Did I miss what you were asking?
No, yeah. So I guess, in nutshell, my question to you is that, as NuLeaf project, I know people come to you asking about hands-on touching businesses. Do you have a list, or have you guys seen, hey, these are businesses that are not hands-on touching businesses that are potential investments or potential opportunities that people can look into?
Yeah, so I would start broadly with the category of technology. And so both you and Dean have referenced that. Dean said POS. But there's going to be technology needed across, all of the become verticals. So all of those plant touching businesses. So the ancillary companies serve the plant touching companies. So what do those plant touching companies need? And obviously they need technology, but they need where that's going and is they need technology at scale. How do you help them scale up? So POS is a good example of that. But so is like automated grow room technology. People are looking at AI technology for you can actually download an app for your house plant. So there's AI technology for like assessing plant health and whether, the plants need whatever the plant needs, and then responding to that with machines. So I'm just giving examples of technologies really broad and all of the various things that you might need. There's also like equipment type technology. So what equipment do you need for processing? How can that be better? What equipment do you need for rolling? I met someone who made a new faster roller for pre-rolls. So there's a lot of things that people could work on. If you are a tinkerer and an engineer, and I think someone can make a better grinder. So then you think, what ancillary businesses serve consumers? So if you are a consumer, and I think culturally, we we created cannabis culture. You know, what we see is cannabis culture from, you know, just from the chronic to I'm from the South. So for me, Outcast was cannabis culture, and Hootie Hoo. So that's just, yeah, right. So that's our culture. So I think when we think I want to create a product for consumers, that's authentic to us to really tap into cannabis culture. They have to copy our voice. So that's where I think we do show up. We show up in a way where we're uniquely ready for this space. And so ancillary, like, what about a better grinder? That's right. where I started. Yeah. So what could you make that helps the consumer? That's another way of looking at it. There's so much. There really is so much. You think about the medical paths you could go down, and what do people need to help interact better with cannabis as medicine. So yeah, it really almost is endless. Anthony, you asked about a list. We've got a video on our website that tries to explain to people ancillary businesses and what the various categories are. But we're also happy to talk to you.
Thank you so much. And I guess the last question is, based on the bill that's going through, can these type of businesses also be funded through the grants that are coming through, you know, instead of the hands-on touching? Like, if you come up with an idea for a better grinder and you have a business plan, you have, you know, I'm going to need X amount of money, you know, as far as for a demo product and growth and that type of thing, will you be able to use that money for that?
Yes, absolutely. So the money that's coming out with the cannabis taxes can be used for any type of business. There's absolutely no restriction. We're making sure all the businesses get funded. And NuLeaf Project, I said before, we funded 23 businesses. We've given away over $500,000 either in grants or loans. And we fund exactly those kinds of businesses. We just funded a cone business, a person making hemp cones. So yeah.
Thank you.
Man, NuLeaf Project is so dope, bro.
I would echo that. Yeah, they're NuLeaf. I'm gonna always steer people towards NuLeaf. They do the best work. They provide such good help. I know somebody in the chat just like posted, you know, I need a business plan. NuLeaf.org, NuLeafProject.org. That's
yeah. I'm gonna go over a few of these comments. So one of my guys, man, Tavis Miller. Shout out to Tavis, man. I've known him for. Bro, it got to be like 30 years almost, since the 90s when I used to rap. Ain't that so cliche? Yes, I did used to rap. And I had bars and I still got them. So don't hate. Diversity keeps us in worker status, I guess, instead of ownership. We need a black-based cannabis industry set up so we don't need the industry to pander to our new opportunity. How can we set it up all black? NuLeaf Project, that's how you can set it up all black. But you're going to have all black people involved. You know what I mean? Like, we can set it up all black, but bring the black people who have the means, the will, the education, the desire to set it up. And we can set up anything. So in my opinion, you know, man, we could build a cannabis empire if we wanted to. But it's just like what Jonathan was saying. People are elusive. People, where do we find them? Where are you guys at? Let's go. Let's see. I know I just took on that question. I'm sorry, because they answered NuLeaf Project. I'm gonna tell you right now, the answer probably NuLeaf Project to all these questions, but we're gonna keep going. I know a handful of us working successfully in this state, myself included. We just don't put ourselves out there like that. That's John Wyckoff. What's going on? John is a cool brother. I think we met at the cookout. And we are going to go ahead.
Sorry to cut you off, Adrian.
No, go ahead.
I saw this comment earlier and it didn't have his name, which made me sad because I'd love for him to put himself out there and for me to meet him, to get to network more of us together.
Yeah, it's a trip. StreamYard, the interface we use to broadcast the show sometimes doesn't show the name of the poster. Okay. But I'm watching on Facebook. Great. And that's John Wyckoff. So John, if you still listening, man, reach out to NuLeafProject.org.
Love that.
The next person, man, you know, I don't know how many of you know who this dude is, but he go by the name of Cool Nuts. He actually has a CBD line that's called Private Reserve, Trap Kitchen Private Reserve. You know what I mean? So you guys definitely want to check out that. You definitely want to check out his new album, which is really dope. And he just said, great combo. And thanks for putting this together. So, you know, another industry professional just giving us the thumbs up. Crazy, you work for WYLD. I've personally applied there several times thinking I would be an automatic hire, but nah. Congrats to you, sir. Oh, is that shade? I'm just messing with you, John. But yeah, man, let's keep it going, man. Maybe you're right, John. Maybe it's time to do our own thing, brother. I have my own CBD infused line. I have my LLC, EIN, and DUN. DUNS. What is that? I don't know what that is.
It's another business entity number you need.
Okay. I need help with my business plan. Is that NuLeaf too?
It is. And I would also tell that person to start working on your ODA hemp license.
ODA. So
one more license.
Shakur Crooks. Man, this is why I hope you guys ain't just commenting and leaving. This is why you got to stay and watch the whole thing, because we do get to the comments, So Shakur Crooks, she said, "What do I do next?" And
she's
Jeannette
well on her way. So congratulations for having all those things. And so there's just one more key thing she needs from everybody who wants their stuff. Department of Ag makes you get a hemp license for CBD, and then we would love to talk to you about our business plan.
How do I apply for this grant? Which grant? Okay, well, NuLeaf. And then somebody else just said, "Peace, family." All right, that's Daniel. That's DJ, bro. DJ, that's my guy. DJ live across the street from me. DJ does financing, credit counseling. He sells cars, and he does debates. He does black political type debates. You know what I'm saying? He's dope. I'm gonna do one more. Joanne, so important that Black people own the means of production. Would you share your take on the intersectional lens needed to lift women, immigrant, queer, and disabled Black people? What a great question. I think we just got to be inclusive, man. We can't it's not an exclusive industry. We just need to recognize people are just human beings, man, and everybody's just out here trying to make a living and get their family right. You know what I mean? Get these labels out of the way. You know what I'm saying? I think that I don't have to speak for NuLeaf. I know these guys. I know Jonathan. We're inclusive people. You know what I'm saying? So we don't care what you're coming with, where you're coming from, or what your identity is. Bring it. Let's go. But bring the will. Let's not just ask these questions. Come take advantage of these resources. We're telling you what to do. Okay, I know that we can go down that road if we want to, or you can bring your ideas to people like Jeannette. And there's so many other programs out there, and I'm more than happy to welcome anyone else to Black Portland Live that wants to speak about their program. And I'm saying, it's so important. I'm not trying to be dismissive, but at the end of the day, I'm saying, let's bring it, man, because if anything, the marijuana industry is probably one of those places that can ultimately be more inclusive, right? Because it's a new industry, and so we can help to build it and shape it and move it in the direction that it wants to go. That's to speak to what Ross and Jeannette have touched on in a couple of our conversations. We make weed culture. The Chronic for me was the weed culture. You know what I'm saying? It was, Dr. Dre and E40 and all them. You know what I'm saying? So we make weed culture, and now once again they found a way to take it from us. So let's take it back. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. I'll be going. No, anybody else wants?
I'd love to. Thank you. The diversity is very important, and what I would add to Joanne's list of this intersectional lens, women, immigrant, queer, and disabled, is arrested for cannabis. And we look at all of that when we look at what businesses we fund, because we want to make sure we are recognizing that women are the least funded of Black founders, and what hurdles that disabled people might have to completing our application. And we want to make sure that just like we're asking that bill to hold these cannabis taxes accountable, we hold ourselves accountable to ensuring that we really are reaching diverse members of our community.
I appreciate that. And that's going to be a conversation in an upcoming Black Portland Live is just this intersectionality within the Black community and how we can really start to just identify each other as Black people and understand that what hurts one Black person hurts all of us. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah. So, man, I really appreciate you guys for taking your time out. Does anybody have any like kind of last things they want to get out there? Any kind of last questions? Anything you want to say before we take off? And while you guys are doing that, we're going to just go through the route. We're going to start with Dean, then Anthony, then Ross, then Jeannette. And while we're going through that, I'm just sharing some website information. Go ahead, Dean. Any last questions? Any last things you want to bring up?
I don't have any questions. Just wanted to thank everyone for being here, and thanks for the invite. This has been great. Thank you very much.
Anthony, how about you, sir?
Yeah, no more questions. I just want to say thank you for facilitating this. Thank you to Jeannette. Thank you for Jonathan. You guys brought a wealth of information. I appreciate your passion and your love. And I just would say in conclusion that, you made an excellent point, Adrian, about, stop, just don't talk about it, but be about it. We need to go forward and push forward and, go forward and make some progress. So thank you. Once again, I appreciate your time.
Thanks, Anthony. Ross, what's going on with you, man?
I want to say thank you all for the invite. Thank you for the time to speak. From a note to WYLD, we are constantly hiring. Please come check us out, buy the product, do what you got to do. But we're constantly hiring. We're trying to be diverse. Thank you. That's about all.
Jeannette?
I wanted to say first, thank you for this space and this time to be with this community. I've been here in Portland going on 5 years. So this is an honor to get to come into this community and share this information with y'all. I love that you're on the website, because what I would leave with people is where you can go to find that information. I mentioned there's a video where you can learn about ancillary companies. It was right there on the homepage called Canna Dreamers. You would just scroll by it, Adrian.
I'm coming back to it. I'm coming
sweet.
back.
So if you're out there, we're NuLeafProject.org, and that's our website. And if you're trying to find just quick snippets of information on what are ancillary businesses, what are the various license types we have here in Oregon, there's a very Oregon-specific piece of information. It was that first one that came up in the carousel, Canna Dreamers there. So that's where you go.
So that's where you go for all those asking.
Mm-hmm.
Canna Dreamers, finding your path. There's a bunch of helpful videos on there, information, a way to submit a comment and get in touch with the great folks at NuLeaf Project. Do not waste time. Let's not procrastinate. If we want this, let's go out and get it. It's there for the taking. Let's be on the ground floor of it for once. You know what I'm saying? So that we can do some, people hate me for using this word, but I'm going to use it, some self-reparations, bro. Let's do some self-reparation. Let's get ourselves back on an equal footing and quit waiting for these guys to do it. I think that's a reflection of the Cannabis Equity Act, soon to be rebranded Cannabis Equity Act into Equitable Investment Act.
Equity Investment Act.
I was close.
You're real close. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? But let's more things like this act. This is how we can start atoning for some of the wrongs that have been done to us. Like when I talk about social justice, that's one of the things that I love about this particular piece of legislation is that they literally say, automatic expungements. How many of us been arrested for weed sales? You know what I'm saying? And again, how did that affect your family generational? Was it enough to make it a felony so you couldn't get a real job for 10 years? You know what I'm saying? You can't vote and can't own a weapon, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean? So that has long-term effects. And so we need to make sure that when opportunities show themselves, us as Black folks, we're coming in, we're making our presence felt, and we're taking advantage of these opportunities, not let it slip through our fingers. Because oftentimes you can't get legislations passed as just for Black people. It has to be for Black and this, and this. And all of those other et ceteras go out, they get the education, they get the resources, they pull together, and they go get that. And then we say, well, I heard the bill passed, but they didn't do nothing. It was, the government always putting that money in their pocket. I bet you Governor so-and-so took the tax money. That's how they built that A-Lene casino. You know what I'm saying? Like, it'd be all this old kind of conspiracy theory type crap out there, when what it is that we haven't taken the time to ask the people who have the knowledge to give us the education and the resources and the direction to actually produce something tangible. You see what I'm saying? So be a dreamer, but then do the things that take you on the path to realizing that dream. Because if you don't, man, it's just all talk, and we're going to be in the back seat forever. The backseat of our own shit, what we made popular and what we drove to being legal in this place, man. I want to thank you guys for just spending your time, bro. An hour and a half, 2 hours, however much. It's a long time to take out of everybody's busy schedule, especially on a Sunday night like tonight, man. I just enjoy the just bouncing off of people, man. I just love Black folks so much. You know what I mean? I just love to talk to y'all and just to kind of have these conversations. That's why I do this show. I'm not trying to people have asked me, do I want to start a podcast? Yes, I do want to start a podcast, but that's neither here nor there. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, though, I don't do it for that. You know what I'm saying? I do it because, man, I love y'all and I love my city, man. And I just want us to really come together and start building things for ourselves and rebuilding our stature and stop letting these guys intimidate us with the bullshit that they done pulled on us in the past. Right. We had one question on that Clubhouse where a young lady was asking us, how are we going to get around the historically racist practices of the OLCC? So even though we get these grants and we go in and we get these licenses and we open these businesses, we all know the OLCC want to play games when it's Black owned. I think I thought about that, you know what I mean? And we could put in all the programs we want, but some of it is our responsibility, right? To be professional in our presentation when we open these types of businesses. And then it's also the responsibility of the community to respect those spaces and not do anything to draw the attention of these fools. You see what I'm saying? So they don't give them no excuse. Support each other, man. Support these businesses, man. Come spend this money with each other, man, so we can help each other grow. And don't get me started, bro, because I could go all night. I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I'm going to end it at that unless somebody else got something real quick.
Can I do one thing before we close?
Sure.
In line of what you said, let's do support some Black cannabis businesses. So I'm going to give you some names. So go shop at Green Muse, which is at 13th and Killingsworth. That's where you're going to get your flour, your pre-rolls, your wild gummies. So that's a retail store. If you want delivery, you just want to sit at home and have it come to you, go buy that from Green Box. So it's PDX Green Box. There's also Potmates. I said Potmates, not Postmates. You got to put in Potmates Portland, but it'll come up. Those are both delivery. And then go to the Joint and get you a CBD juice. They just opened. They're on Sandy. It's owned by a Black woman, and it's the best juice you're ever going to have, infused with CBD. So visit her. Okay, that's all. And that's the Joint, JOYNT, so you can find it. We can't hear you, Adrian, but I'm sure you're doing something helpful.
Yeah, I'm just putting it up on the screen. I don't know the websites, but there we go. Green News, PDX Green Box, and Postmates. Green News is for the shop, for the flour, and for the pre-rolls or whatever you're working with. PDX Green Box and Postmates are for the delivery. And then the Joint got the best cannabis juice this side of Mississippi Street. You know what I'm saying? So if you guys want to mess with these are Black-owned cannabis businesses right now in the city. Go show some love. I know y'all out here buying from the Herbery and from Lemonade and all these other spots like that. Going to show some love to some of our people and help them and help support this industry and each other. And with that, man, I'm gonna let y'all go and have a great day, man. And Black Portland, will see y'all next month. Peace. I'm gonna go out with that North of Cali shot by Mr. Ronnie Wright. Yeah. don't know if y'all can hear this, but
speak,
it's a cut.
versatile. Once again, y'all know how we do. Classics, history. Let's do it now. Met this pretty lady named Faye. Little chocolate, huh? From Charlotte, no hustling. Okay. Steady, serving all the sweet tea. That day we touched on just about everything. Our up and downs, trifling ways. Yeah, God loves us the same. Yes, sir. She tried to figure my sway. She said, from around this way, something about the way it speaks to me. And I like it smiling so deep. You must be from the Bay of LA. I say, no, Miss Baby, not the Cali. Some gratitude, latitude. We breathe that green, baby. We out here, the flyest kicks. 206. I don't know what people say, baby, but we up here. We up here, no doubt. I'm from here. We from here. Representing all the tasty seasonings, blended with all the mixes and everything in between. And what I mean, we so P. We so P. S.O. Emerald City. To the Emerald City. Liquid sunshine, you can stop and stay all night. We from that northwest coast, Max Train of the Metro, Oaks Park of the Expo, Swoosh, headquarters if you get close, might get a plug on the retros. Out here we're pleasure and shop play, feels good in the hood on a hot day. Way before Starbucks had a latte, I had a posse on Mix-a-Lot's Broadway. Quincy and Jimmy did what you achieved, that jazz, that soul, we do with ease. We saw ACTV, Stoudemire, Terrence, and Aaron go to the league. Just dial 503 on the phone. You were born with rain and a song. Twin cities like neighbors, see hot flavors, safe. Stay on that I-5 to the skyline, see the Space Needle on the road. Garfield and Jefferson know the code. Huskies and ducks on overload. Yep. So we MVP all day. Yep. You know that love for the road gon' stay. Yep. Cause when you ain't from around our way, I can tell it, baby, but let me say up here. No doubt I'm from here. We from here. Representing all the tasty seasonings, blended with all the fixings and everything in between. You know what I mean? So P. I'm so P. It's so city. Time we see you. You know that Let's go now. Let's go like Coke and a smile, but come and visit in the summer though.
Oh yeah, by the way, I spelled green muse wrong. I had green news. Peace.